Hello, Faith and Finance family. Today's topic is budgeting. Now, before you roll your eyes, just stick with me. By the end of this video, you'll know how to create and stick to a budget. But first, if you're new, welcome to the Faith and Finance community. My name is Brianna. I'm the Faith and Finance Mama, and I teach moms how to manage their money God's way. So before we jump into budgeting, let's jump into our word. So today's scripture comes from Proverbs 21, verse 5, and it says, "The plans of the diligent lead to profit as surely as haste leads to poverty." So what does that have to do with budgeting? Budgeting is a plan. It's a plan for your finances, whether that's paying off debt, saving for something important, or just getting to a place where you're not just struggling to pay your bills. So in order to have a plan, you have to first know all of your numbers. So let's jump into everything that you need for a budget, how to get it set up, and most importantly, how to stick in it. Come on.
Step number one to creating a budget is to get all of your income sources written down. So if you get paid once a month, if you get paid twice a month, including you and your spouse's income, if you have any kind of support, that could be from other family members helping you, or if you get government support, if you have a side hustle or part-time jobs, you want to make sure you have all of your income totaled for the month. Now, I understand some people's income varies month to month. Maybe your job is commission-based, or maybe you get bonuses, or maybe you don't work a consistent amount of hours each week. So when you're doing your budget, you always just want to go off of the lowest amount you could get for that month, just to be safe. And then again, if you happen to get a raise or more hours or something increases your income, then you can factor that into your budget. But you always want to be cautious, so go with the lowest amount you could make in the month to do your budget. And then again, if you have extra money, you can always add that in later on. Step 2 for creating your budget is to write down all of your expenses. So this is going to be everything you spend money on for the month. So of course we know the big things: rent, or your mortgage, car payment, insurance. You definitely want to make sure you have all of those things written down. But for creating a successful budget, you need to write down everything that you spend money on. So that could be any kind of subscriptions you have. So Netflix, Hulu. If you have any paid apps on your phone, sometimes we forget about those. So if you have like a monthly subscription for a certain app, you need to include that. Things like daycare, of course, groceries. So anything that you spend money on, that also includes, your DoorDash as you're going to Starbucks. Anything that's coming out of your account each month, you need to write it down. This is going to be crucial for creating a successful budget. So this may take some time. Some cool resources to use. A lot of banking apps have a spend tracker where they actually break down how much you're spending on each category. So it kind of does the work for you. So you can usually get those online through your banking app. So that can kind of help you too, or just reviewing your bank statements is a great way to go through and see what comes out automatically. I have Google, I have an Android phone, so I can also go into the Google Play Store and see what subscriptions I have that I'm paying for my different apps. So just go through everything you spend money on, write it down. That's going to be very important for the next step for creating your budget. All right, step 3. So now that we have all of our income written down and we have all of our expenses written down, we're going to make sure that the income is more than the expenses. So go ahead and total up. So take how much income you have for the month and then subtract the total amount of all of your expenses and see what the difference is. So if your income is more than your expenses, we're off to a good start. Now, if it's the opposite and you have more expenses than income, this is where we need to stop and really go through all the expenses to see what we can cut. So again, that can be some of those subscriptions you may not need for your apps or certain streaming services. And again, if you're really trying to just get your money in order or really focusing on paying off debt or building your savings, cutting these expenses is just temporary to get you to your goal. Of course, once you've paid off your debt or you have more money coming in, you can start doing these things again. But it's important to get to a point where more is coming in than is going out. So for me personally, I used to have cable TV. I cut that out. I no longer have cable. And I do have streaming services now, but for a while I just watched my DVDs. I cut out cable. So go through, if you have more expenses, go through and really look at, okay, what am I spending money on each month that I don't need or that I can cut back temporarily? So that's going to help. So again, if your income is more than your expenses, now what you're going to do is something called the zero-based budget is what I have found to be most successful. What this means is you're going to work with your budget for all your spending categories to make sure that your income and your expenses, the difference is $0. So that means you take everything, all your expenses you have is in there. If you have any extra money left over from your income, then you could put that into a specific category of your choosing. So for example, if you put everything in and you realize like, hey, I have an extra, $50, each paycheck or whatever, then you can put that towards your savings goal, or you can add that to your debt payoff. So that's where the nice thing is when you give every single dollar a job, you're not wondering, okay, where did the money go? Because you know where everything's going. Now, this part is going to take some finessing. On average, it takes about 90 days of consistent budgeting to actually get the hang of it. So be patient with yourself, give yourself grace, and also realize life is going to happen. So yes, you may have created this wonderful budget where every dollar has a job, and then a kid's going to get sick, or you're going to need a car repair. So life is going to happen, so just know that. But just make sure that you're prepared for it by at least having a job for all of the dollars that are coming in. So you're not completely sidelined where I'm like, okay, wait, I thought I had this money, but I actually don't because it was budgeted for this. So it's important to really nail everything down as much as you can, but still be flexible for life, because we all know life is going to happen. All right, something else that can help. So if you're in the situation where your expenses are more than your income and you've gone through, you've canceled, your Netflix, you've, decided you're not going to eat out anymore or do DoorDash, and you really cut out everything but the necessities and you still have more expenses than income, this is where you get to be creative. So there are a lot of side hustles that you can actually do. If you're working full time, there are things you can do on the weekends. One thing I did early on was I drove for Lyft for a short period of time, and then end up driving for DoorDash for a while because I could do it after work and on the weekends. So there are things you can do. Now, if you have a part-time job, another option is gain another part-time job. Again, the goal here is to get you where you want to go financially. So if you're trying to pay off debt, it's going to be, difficult for a little while. You may have to, again, find another job or just find other ways to get more income coming in. But again, it's just temporary, and the faster you can get to your goals, so whether that's saving up an emergency fund or knocking out debt, the faster you can do that, the sooner you can get back to your normal life. So again, I understand it may be difficult to get another job or find something else to do on the side, but just getting that mindset of, okay, this is just temporary until I can get closer to my goal. And getting creative. So a lot of people sell on Etsy. There are things, if you're really crafty, you can, sell your products online or even just sell among your friends. My sister-in-law actually is a wonderful baker. And so sometimes people will pay her to make them cakes or cupcakes. So there are certain things like that. If you have a skill or a hobby, you can most likely get paid for it. It's just, again, getting creative, really thinking about what can you do in the pockets of time that you may have to actually make extra money. Another nice thing too is just being prepared. So if you do get, your tax return, or you happen to get a bonus at work, or, grandma sends you a check for a couple $100s, the first thing you want to do is make sure you either build your savings account, because that's one of the most important things to have when you're trying to get your finances in order, is having that emergency fund set up. So there are creative ways you can sell things that are around your house that you're not using, like on Facebook Marketplace, or I like Mercari is one that I've sold a few items on, eBay, Craigslist. If you have stuff lying around that's still in good condition, you can sell it to get that extra money coming in until you can get to a point where your income is more than your expenses. So it's going to take some getting creative, but it can be done. So just kind of look at different things you can do to get to a point where you're getting more income coming in than you have expenses going out. Now that you know how to create a budget and ways to make sure your income is more than your expenses, the last key to budgeting is learning how to actually stick to it. Proverbs 15:22 says, "Plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many advisors they succeed." The key to sticking to your budget is asking for help. Find a couple of people in your life who are doing better financially than you and ask if they can help you stay accountable. Check in with them regularly to make sure you're staying on track. With anything we do in life, the most important habit we should have is to give it to God in prayer. I'll leave you with one of my favorite verses for encouragement. Philippians 4:6-7 says, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." I'm going to drop the link to my budgeting basics tools if you're ready for more help mastering budgeting. Let me know in the comments what was most helpful in this video so I can keep helping you along your journey. If this encouraged you, give the video a like and subscribe for more. Until next time, blessings.